let's make sure we're all good, and let me get this thing started and make sure that everyone here can see my screen. Okay, thank you guys. I'm so honored to be with you today. I'm going to show you 5 key reasons that explain why so many kids struggle with math. As director of a math learning center, I've seen so many caring, well-meaning parents focus on the wrong things and then get very frustrated why they're not seeing improvement in their kids' math. My hope is that by the end of this training, you will have clarity to see the 5 root causes of why it's hard for your child to do well in math and what you can do about it. Does your child struggle with math? Here would be the telltale signs. Homework time is tense, tearful, you dread it, your child dreads it. Or you hear your child complain that she hates math is stupid, doesn't make sense. Or one day you ask her a simple math question and you realize she's missing some basic concept or that she can't do some basic mental math. If that resonates with you, I want to first tell you, you're not alone. It's much more common than you realize, and the frustration is felt in many, many homes. Why is it so common? I offer you 5 key reasons. First, your child's elementary school is missing a math teacher. There is no math teacher in public elementary schools in the US. Okay, let me pause because I can just see your faces right now. Of course you don't believe me. That's why I want to show you the staff directory at a local public school right in my district. Do you see any math teachers? There's no English teacher, no social studies teacher either. There's just one class teacher, and this person teaches all subjects. Well, except for PE or music. Do you know this is not so in other developed countries like Singapore, Sweden, Korea? In those countries, there is a separate teacher for every subject, even at the elementary school level. In the US, however, we're still in the barnyard elementary schoolhouse, if I may say, one teacher that is expected to know and cover all subjects. What does this mean for your children? In 2009, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary Education reported that only 27% of the people who took the state elementary school teachers licensing exam passed the math section. For sure, there's a lot of finger pointing back and forth. Is it a bad test, or are teachers not getting sufficient training in math? Whichever way it is, your child has a 27% chance of getting a teacher who's comfortable with math. Now, let's look at it from the teacher's standpoint. If you're an aspiring teacher who's crazy about math and loves teaching it, would you teach in the elementary school, where you're also required to teach English, social studies, science, or would you rather be a dedicated math teacher in a middle or high school? So, I'm afraid your child's elementary school teacher is unlikely to be as crazy about math as the math teachers you find in middle and high school. To make it worse, schools change curriculum textbook standards more frequently in math than in any other subject, which makes it harder for elementary school teachers, whom we already see could use much more math training, to gain mastery at teaching the material. Some of you may think, well, elementary school math is quite easy. Do you really need a specialized math teacher? It's actually even more important to get a good grounding in math. Here's a report from a long-term study at the University of Missouri. And it shows that kids who fall behind in first grade, this gap here, get even more behind by 5th grade. Middle school math is painful for the child who hasn't mastered her fractions, decimals, and percents. But to me, the most important reason that the 1st to 5th grade years are critical is this. More and more kids make up their mind by the end of 5th grade if they hate math or not, if they're wired for math or not. And all of us parents know how important mindset is. So clearly, the elementary school math years are critical. Stay with me to the second part of this video where I'll give you some strategies to combat this systemic issue. For now, let's move on to reason number 2. The second reason that American kids suck at math is because of their belief in the math gene. If you ask a child in the US what it takes to be successful at math, many will say, well, you have to be wired for it. If you ask a child in other countries the same question, they'll say, you got to work for it. See the difference? This myth that you're either born with a math gene or not is a widespread one in America. Ironically, it hurts both the weak and the strong math students. The kids weak in math don't bother to try because they believe they ain't got it. But how does it hurt the kids who are strong in math? Well, if I have the math gene, I don't need to work hard. When these kids get to middle school and hit a challenging math concept, it becomes clear they lack the work ethic to rise up to the challenge. These kids, at the sign of difficulty, will decide that if math's hard now, then they must not really have the math gene after all. All right, parents. Some of us unwittingly reinforce this damaging belief. Have your children heard you say things like this? I hated math in school, wasn't my thing. Or, that's too much math for me, go ask your dad. How about, math's really easy if you've got a math brain. No good, no good. And here's the real tragedy. Kids who believe in this type of fixed mindset, that you either have it or you don't, will start believing it about everything else. There's a gene for public speaking, there's a business smarts gene, a language gene, when in reality, as shown by Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, and another really good one, Mindset by Carol Dweck, superior performance is tied more to family, culture, opportunity, and hard work, not genetic makeup. Believing that God goes around preborn infants and inject the math genes to you and you and you, but not you and you, is one of the main reasons why our kids don't try harder at math. I'm going to put you on the spot. A pop quiz. Go ahead, enter your answers in the Q&A box below. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, the first answer came in. Jenny, yup, that's right. You got it. Karen, you got the first 2 right, Karen. Fred, all good. And, oh, someone just wrote, been a while since I was in school. That's actually quite a common answer. I'm going to say something you may not believe, but it's really true. If you really got math, you'd be able to do up to 6th grade math without needing to review, no matter how many years you've been out of school. If instead you're trying to remember the steps, the formula to answer my pop quiz, then those concepts weren't explained to you in a way you really got it. Because understanding is forever. But procedural steps must be memorized and reviewed over and over again. That's why it's really important that our kids understand the math and not just have the ability to go through the process. We all know that just because a child can go through the motion, the process steps, does not mean she understands the math concept. It's our job to make sure they really got it as teachers. And that's not easy. For starters, kids don't tell you when they don't get math. Somehow they feel it's okay to ask a question about grammar, what are subjunctive rules, how does this work? But when it comes to math, it's embarrassing. They feel stupid asking math questions. It's easier to just follow the steps, so they don't give teachers a chance to explain it a different way. Teachers end up with a tough job of diagnosing and assessing the students proactively, and that takes a lot of time. Take, for example, adding fractions. If you teach math, you'll find it very common to find a child add fractions this way. It's wrong, by the way. Now, one way to correct him is to show him the step-by-step procedure. Multiply the denominators so you get 6. Since you multiply 3 with 2 to get 6, you do the same up here. 1 times 2 equals 2. Since you multiply 2 with 3 to get 6, you also multiply the top with 3. Add the numerators. There you go, 5 over 6. Wasn't that easy and quick? There's only one problem. Did the kid get what he is doing? Teaching for understanding usually involves a lot more back and forth and continuous assessment along the way. The best way for me to show you that is with an illustration. I'm going to role play this and I'm going to try to sound like a kid so you can kind of see it in action, okay? All right. Lisa, how did you get 2/5? Easy. Add the numbers on the top and the numbers on the bottom. I see. Can you draw a third for me? Can you draw half for me? Good. How about 2/5? So Lisa, if I add the shaded area here and the shaded area here, do you think I'll end up with this? Probably not. But aren't you supposed to add them up? What did I do wrong? Well, Lisa, I'll let you in on a simple rule in math. You can only add or subtract things that are the same. This here is a third, this here is a half. They're different fractions, different types of fractions. Before you can add them, you got to make them the same type of fraction. It's like if you want to add a nickel and a dime. First, you turn them both into what? Pennies? That's right, Lisa. Then you can add the pennies. So we have to turn the third and the half into the same type of fractions before you can add them. Let's try sixths. Okay, here's 2/6, and that's 3 out of 6. I get 5/6. That makes sense. Wait, how did you decide to choose sixths? Okay, end of role play. Did you notice how much back and forth that was? Did you notice I'm continuously trying to assess the child? Can she visualize 2/5? Does she get equivalent fractions? At any point, I can take a different path if I find gaps that need to be addressed first. It surely is more time consuming than just making her go through the steps. But the reward is soul satisfying understanding. And understanding is forever. It's so worth it. Reason number 4 is nothing new. Large class size. You probably have complained about it yourself. Teachers do everything they can, but it's really impossible for one teacher to address the unique learning styles of 20, 25 kids. The way they learn and the speed they learn are different. Even what they hear is different. I once read out a word problem to a class. This is funny. And it's a simple problem. If 2 cans cost 50 cents, what can $1 buy? A girl raised her hand and asked, 2 cans are beautiful. They cost way more than 50 cents. Another time, I talked for 10 minutes about fractional parts of a whole, and I found out later, all that time George was envisioning holes, black holes. You know, I commend the toucan girl because it's not easy for a child to speak out in front of a large class that what the teacher is saying doesn't make sense to her. Most kids would rather stay puzzled than speak up. So you can see it's easy in a large class for gaps to arise and go undetected. Reason number 5, Bill Gates says it for me. In American math classes, we teach a lot of concepts poorly over many years. In the Asian systems, they teach you very few concepts very well over a few years. Math is more like a ladder than a mountain. You master each rung, then move up to the next. Unfortunately, in many elementary school math textbooks used here, learning math is treated more like spiraling up a mountain. Touch lightly on many topics, then spiral back around the mountain and touch the same topic some more, then spiral around again and revisit the same topics. Open your child's 3rd grade book for an example. You'll see that instead of focusing the bulk of it on core topics of multiplication, division, equal length chapters are found on topics such as probability, data analysis, and algebra concepts. Is it any wonder that we have 5th graders who still can't multiply? The result? Kids move on year after year, grade after grade, without mastering the core topics. So there you have it, the 5 key reasons our bright kids don't do as well as they should in math. 1, the math teacher is missing. 2, the belief in the math gene. 3, mistaking procedural steps for understanding. 4, large classroom size. And finally, a curriculum that emphasizes breadth over depth. What's a parent to do? I'd like to offer these strategies. It starts with mindset. If you have not read Carol Dweck's book on mindset, I highly recommend it. There are 2 kinds of mindsets, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. After I read that book, I don't say anymore to my daughter, "Wow, Kayla, you solved that difficult puzzle. Smart kid." Because you see, that's a fixed mindset. You're a smart kid or you're not. Instead, now I say, "Hey, Kayla, you didn't give up. You got stuck a few times and you pressed on. It paid off." Now that's a growth mindset. The idea that you can do things to make yourself better. Same thing with math. Don't say, "John, you're so smart at math." Instead say, "Hey, that topic seemed so difficult when you started. What a difference practice made." Whether your child joins our math center or you do this on your own, remember, mindset is key. I can't say enough the power of environment. It's shocking for new kids joining our center to see other kids having fun working out at math here. The kids look engaged, there's an excited buzz in the air. We don't talk about who's wired for math, who's not, because here everyone gets math. When a kid gets math, math is a lot more engaging. And when you're in a room of kids who are engaged, excited about math, it's contagious. Tutoring tends to focus on tonight's fire. The majority of a tutor's time is helping the child with homework. But if your child consistently needs help with her homework, it suggests some big gaps in her math foundation. So my suggestion is that instead of focusing on tonight's fire, address the foundational gaps. That will have a much more long-term impact. Your child will find math a lot less painful going forward. Memorizing process steps without knowing why, seeing math as disconnected islands of facts, is what drained the fun out of math for most kids. Here's something you need to know. If you forget everything else, remember this one. Kids don't really hate math. What they hate is being intimidated, embarrassed, and frustrated by it. And when they realize that, hey, they can get math, that it can make sense, whoa, what a difference. What we've been talking about, engaging the child in conversation, continuous assessment, looking for gaps, addressing them, making sure the child understands and not just memorizing steps, it's impossible to do in a classroom of 20-25 kids. The only way to do that is eyeball to eyeball teaching, guidance, support. If you, the parent, is comfortable explaining the math, you're the ideal home tutor. If you have to hire a private tutor, make sure he is skilled at diagnosing and explaining math with understanding, not just helping with homework. Wow, we've covered a lot. Systemic challenges to your child's math development, as well as some solid suggestions how to still succeed. Now you have a choice. Either you can go and work this out on your own, or if you'd like some guidance and some support, we're here for you. Here's a summary of the Mathnasium program. It begins with a sophisticated written and verbal assessment that will accurately determine your child's strengths and weaknesses. Next, we develop an individualized learning plan based on the gaps uncovered in the assessment. Your child comes in twice a week for 1 hour to work with a warm, encouraging instructor to go through the plan. Because it's not a group class, and this is important to note, because it's not a group class, you choose the weekly schedule that works for you and your child. Our center is open 7 days a week. Ultimately, the results of working out at our Math Learning Center is that your child's attitude about math will be much more positive. She will have a deeper grasp of foundational material. She will grow in confidence in math. I'm thinking of Sarah. When she started in 4th grade, she hated math. She was a bright kid, but had a lot of anxiety about math. 9 months into the program, she was raising her hands in class, taking much more interest in the subject. In fact, her mother's concern now is how that confidence is shifting into cockiness. Isn't that a great problem to have? All right, that's all I have prepared for you today. If you're a returning Mathnasium student, don't miss the early bird registration discount on your email. We look forward to seeing your kids again. If you're new to Mathnasium, you may wonder, what's the difference between the Mathnasium program and other tutoring programs? Well, why not let your child tell you? Sign up for a free trial session. Your child will experience Mathnasium firsthand, and she'll tell you. So with all that in mind, I would love to take some questions right now. And thank you so much for staying on with me. If you have a question, go ahead, type it in below, and I will gladly answer your questions. Okay, first question here. Jordan asks, what if my son tries it out and still hates math, won't continue? Well, I would need to meet your son to understand why he hates math, but for most kids, it's because math doesn't make sense to them. They feel frustrated a lot. Over the years, I've seen so many kids turn around their attitude once math makes more sense to them. Anyway, it's a free, no obligation trial. If you choose to sign up after the trial, there's still a 30-day window where you can back out for any reason whatsoever. I think you'll be quite surprised though. Karen asks, we've tried tutoring for years, but my child still struggles with math. I won't speak for all tutors, but in most cases, because of time limitation, tutors have to focus on tonight's homework or tomorrow's tests instead of the foundational gaps. Yet it's addressing the foundational gaps that make long-lasting improvements. So Jerry asks, my kid definitely needs this, but I can't afford it. Let me see how to answer this. Okay, I ask that you rephrase that conversation. What does your child lose by not doing this? What's the cost of staying intimidated and anxious about math? What belief system about herself is she reinforcing? How will the next school year unfold? If you know in your heart this is what your child needs, beg, borrow, scheme, it will be the best investment you make. But the best thing is you don't need to make any investment until you've tried it out. Lisa asks, what if I don't see any improvements in my child? Hi Lisa, if you've tried a bunch of different things, you may feel discouraged. Totally understandable. I ask you back though, when you listen to me talk about challenges to your kids and what you can do to help, did that resonate with you? Did you think it made sense? Because you see, what we do is not really revolutionary or magical. It's simply setting up the right mindset, the right environment, focusing on foundational gaps, teaching for understanding, small student-to-teacher ratio. Then rinse and repeat week after week. Do you think your child will improve in that kind of environment? You'll have to answer that for yourself. I'll take one more question. Okay, this one says, what will my child be doing during the free trial session? Good question. The session is 1 hour long. Your child will be working on grade level material. The instructor will cover 2 or 3 topics of varying degrees of difficulty to kind of gauge your child and get to know him better. And when I say covering, I mean the instructor will be teaching him as if he's already a student. This gives your child an idea what it's like to get one-on-one support here. At the end of the session, the instructor will share his observations with you. With that, sorry, I do see many more questions, but I've kept many parents longer than I planned, so I'm going to move on to my final thoughts. I want to remind new parents that your trial session is totally free, no obligation. And to returning Mathnasium parents, to not miss the early registration deadline. Okay, here's my battle cry because I really want your child to be strong and confident in math. I very strongly believe now is the time to help your elementary school child because children are making up their minds about math younger and younger. You pay now or you pay later, and I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about how small gaps become big gaps, how small pain become big pain. I so want to inspire you to take this step before it's too late, which is why we offer a totally free 1 hour trial session. And if you choose to sign up after the trial session, you have a 30-day guarantee to make sure it's the right fit for you. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope that was very helpful. I'll see you at the center.